when I Google John Kerry's Secret Mistress Africa, it brings me down a John Edwards hole, which is fucking weird.
That is bizarre.
But when you put it into Bing, I get a story.
Oh, so Microsoft won't censor it, but Google will.
Like, there was more. There's a couple stories about that. Like John Kerry stuff comes up when I look at that.
Different John Kerry stuff.
Yeah. Where it doesn't redirect to John Edwards. You know.
So that's even weirder, right?
Yeah.
Like you're getting different versions of reality based on what search engine.
Well, you most certainly do. If you use DuckDuckGo, you just get what's out there. And when you use Google, you get really like I noticed that during the pandemic, there was a doctor that had a heart attack immediately after taking his second shot of I think it was Moderna, and so I was like, "What is that about?" And this was like very early on, and I Googled it. I could not find it. I could not find the story. And then I went to DuckDuckGo immediately. And I was like, whoa, this is wild. Like, they're hiding this story.
Right.
So they would hide certain stories because they thought that it would increase vaccine hesitancy. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's
terrifying.
Right.
You're carrying water for the pharmaceutical companies, which is really spooky. Because, I mean, you want to talk about the people that have had, like, the biggest criminal fines in U.S. history. And they've been lying about the adverse effects of their medications forever.
Right.
Withholding information in order to gain a profit. And then you're hiding stories.
Right.
That may implicate them in someone's death. It might be somehow or another involved. Like, we don't know. And you're just hiding it? Why are you hiding that story? I Googled Florida doctor adverse reaction vaccine heart attack instantly. On DuckDuckGo, I get all these articles about this guy that died. Couldn't find shit on Google.
Wow. Well, I mean, look, they've gotten very sophisticated in their ability to suppress certain things. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, this is where you see the influence of how money works with the content suppression thing. I mean. Like you take something like the Digital Forensic Research Lab for the Atlantic Council, it's one of the things that these platforms use to decide whether or not a news story is true. But if you look at where they get their money, it's the German Marshall Fund, which is a mishmash of sort of sovereign wealth funds and Fortune 500 companies. So it's you're paying for the fact check essentially, right? Like that's how all of these sites that are allegedly deciding what's true and what's not, they're all influenced, and that's another thing that drives me crazy is this persistent belief that people have that you can objectively decide what is true and what is not somehow. It doesn't work like that. The only way it works is you either over time you come to trust some stations over others because they have a record of being more right about something. Like that's the only way it works.
Yeah, independent fact checkers. When the independent fact checkers review certain things and you find them on social media where they have like little warning or a little notification afterwards. And you actually go down the rabbit hole and say, well, what have you done? Like, what is a lot of it is subjective. They've just decided that this is not true or decided this is partially true.
Or it's missing context. That's their favorite thing.
Yeah, missing context is great.
Missing context, right? Like, oh, it's true, but here are 8 reasons why you should think otherwise. Like, like that's not our job. And by the way, reporting by itself is fact-checking. That's the whole point of it. Like, we don't need a separate thing called fact-checking, right, to go with report. That whole phenomenon drives me nuts. But.
It's weird, though, that we don't have, I mean, it used to be Snopes, and a lot of people used to go to Snopes, but then I read about Snopes, and you find out all the wacky shit about the people that are involved in Snopes, and that the guy who's the head of it is, like, very heavily left-leaning, and then he married a prostitute, and, like, all kinds of wild shit. It's like Snopes is not like some like rock solid, independent, purely objective organization that is dedicated to the dissemination of truthful information. Like, no, they're like fucking heavily left leaning.
Right. Right.
And
yeah.
in subjective circumstances, when it's subjective whether or not this is real or not real or lacking context or whatever, like they can paint a narrative that it at least is biased.